From the seller's perspective, if I'm investing money that's going to make this a very marketable home, everyone would appreciate a new roof. If there's some different updates, like it needs a new HVAC, if I was going to put money into a home to give it more market value, those are the things, as an insurance agent, that I see as great selling points.
Right. Hi, I'm Carl Weisecker, Principal Broker at Kline May Realty. Thank you once again for joining me for the Kline May Realty Podcast. Today, my guest is Jeremy Rowe. Jeremy owns Goosehead Insurance, an independent insurance agency. I invited him here because he came to our company, Kline May Realty, and gave us a really good education on what's going on in the insurance industry right now and how that impacts our home buyers and sellers. And the connection is much closer and much more important than you may imagine, or maybe that it's been in the past. So thank you so much for being here, Jeremy.
Well, thank you.
You've got a kind of a unique background. Tell us a little bit about the things that you've done real estate-wise and insurance-wise.
Absolutely. So after I graduated from college, I actually worked in education for a little while. I was a teacher for 2 years and worked briefly at Bridgewater College. And then I left education and started working for Enterprise, the car rental company.
Yeah.
And worked in the auto industry in and around Virginia and North Carolina. I oversaw one of the largest locations in North Carolina and then in the state of Virginia as well, and really enjoyed my time with Enterprise. Met my wife while I was working in that occupation, and when we decided to settle down, I switched and I started working in home building. Gotcha. And got my real estate license. I worked over in Charlottesville and built new construction homes as a licensed realtor, working in model homes and working with clients, and really got to see the from the ground up process in building homes. As we had kids and my life changed again, I looked for something that wouldn't have me working every single weekend and freeing up some of the time. 2010, right after the crash and graduating college, I did end up getting my insurance license in property and casualty insurance and health, life, and annuity, and always wanted to own my own business. And so I took a leap of faith and opened up my own insurance brokerage in Fishersville. And I work in Harrisonburg, Fishersville, Charlottesville, Augusta County, all throughout. And my background in working in building homes and new construction and also working and being around cars has given me a unique perspective. Because whenever I'm evaluating someone's insurance, I'm looking at it a little bit different than what most people may.
Right.
Having seen what goes in behind the walls and also working in and around cars for a long time and how insurance can impact that. So it's been a blessing to have that kind of background, and it's given me a lot of tools in the tool belt as I've been working in insurance.
Right,
so, yeah.
Right. And I think that all kind of comes together really nicely now when insurance is having such an impact on residential sales.
Yes.
It used to be that it was kind of a yes, you've got to get your insurance in place before you close on the home, but there wasn't any uncertainty about that. Correct. It was just a matter of finding an insurance agent you trust and getting the deal that you want. Now we're having several deals impacted by various things having to do with the property condition of the house. Help us understand what some of those important things are that you've seen kind of get in the way of a deal, and how the insurance industry is starting to change the way it views some of those things when it's underwriting.
Absolutely. So things have changed quite a bit. And a big catalyst for that was coming out of COVID. During COVID, it was actually a really good time for insurance companies because people weren't driving, so they weren't getting in car accidents, and they were staying at home, so they were catching homeowners claims. As we entered 2021, we wanted to go back to living our normal lives, but there was a lot of stuff that was still slower to get up and going. The auto industry was impacted tremendously. You couldn't buy used cars, new cars. It was difficult to get parts. We saw vehicles appreciate during that time period, which is a very challenging thing for insurance companies. And we saw different types of imports and materials for homes impacted as well by some of those policies and regulations that were in place for everyone's protection coming out of COVID. But we went back to living our normal lives. So in 2021 and 2022, what we saw in the insurance industry was a huge impact on profitability for most companies. And the insurance industry as a whole in 2021 lost about $2.4 billion in net across the entire industry. And then by the end of 2022, fourth quarter of 2022, that went all the way up to about 26.8. At that point, when a company's not profitable any longer, you have to make some changes. And that's really when we started feeling it in the home buying process.
Right.
Because many carriers said we're going to slow down new business that we're taking on. We're going to have different rules to minimize some of our losses that we are taking as a result of this. And we need to increase our rates. So that's why over the last 2 to 3 years, many people have seen pretty substantial increases in their auto insurance and in their homeowners insurance. And the big thing has been the underwriting guidelines that has affected the real estate transaction in that process. So there are several different factors that insurance companies evaluate a new home based on. And those are some of the rules and regulations that have changed when it comes to buying a home and getting homeowners insurance.
Right, right. And some of the things that you and I have talked about, some of the deals that we've seen in our company, I think part of the problem is folks don't know until it's too late that the rules have changed.
Yes.
And then secondary to that is, at least in most of the cases we've run into, if a problem arises, there's not a lot of room for what in my mind would have been the traditional insurance company response. Yeah, we'll still insure you, but it's going to cost you more.
Yes.
There are some items that are just a hard no. If that's
Correct.
the way the house is, you're going to have to find a different insurance company. And that has really caught people off surprise. Is that impression correct? Is that really what's happening overall in the industry?
Yes. There's probably 3 or 4 fairly big things that can have a pretty major impact on when you're evaluating a home, whether you're looking to sell it or whether you're looking to buy it, that insurance companies have drawn hard lines around. One of the biggest ones that I have talked about at length is the age of a roof. The material of the roof can matter. The age of the roof is very important. And insurance companies are very large, and they have to have fairly standard regulations for most locations on how they evaluate things. It's very difficult to go niche, location by location and do that. So some insurance companies, where it used to be fine if you had a 30-year architectural shingle roof, that it's good for 30 years, you would think. Now say at 15 years, if the roof has not been updated in 15 years, we're not going to be covering that roof. Some it's 20 years. There's some insurance companies that are at 10 years. And we're actually lucky in our area, because if you get to places like the Tidewater area of Virginia, some insurance companies say 4 years is what they're going to look at. So that's just one of the factors that can play a role in terms of evaluating it.
Right. So as far as buyers and sellers, that's something to evaluate before they actually sign on the dotted line. For buyers, that needs to be factored into their offer, because in some of the cases with our company, that has literally just stopped a deal. That's a $15,000 expense the buyer wasn't thinking about.
Yes.
They can't get insurance, they can't get financing,
Yes.
and so the deal falls apart. What are some of the other things that insurance companies have heartburn over and that buyers and sellers should be thinking about before entering the market?
Sure. So I'll start out actually with taking it from the buyer's perspective, and then we can go back and take a look at it from the seller's perspective. But for a lot of agents out there, if you're looking at homes or if there's buyers that are evaluating or looking at a property, again, the roof age is a very good one, and any buyer's agent can ask, do you have documentation on when this roof was last updated? Do you know when it was last updated? And asking for the proof. If there's receipts, get the receipts. In the state of Virginia, you don't have to pull a permit for a roof. So it is important for verification to have that. When I say roofs too, I'm talking about asphalt shingle roofs. It's a little bit different from metal and slate and a few of the other things, but for most roofs, if they're asphalt, getting those receipts is important. Also looking at what updates have been done to the home or the age of the home in general. So we had a lot of homes that were built in the late 80s to the early 2000s throughout most of the 90s. We've had another resurgence of home building that's taken place more recently, which has been good. Depending on the age of the home, there's certain types of plumbing that insurance companies do not like. There's something called Quest plumbing or polybutylene plumbing that was very common from the mid 80s all the way through to about 1998. And so if you're looking at a home kind of in that time period, that's something to be mindful of.
Is that a hard no?
It's not to say it's going to have an issue in terms of leaks or anything. For some insurance companies, it's a hard no. For other insurance companies, if it hasn't had an issue, they're okay with it. Another thing is updates for electrical for the home. Some homes in the area still have like knob and tube wiring or older systems. So updated electrical panels, things along those lines can certainly help. The type of wire, too, avoiding aluminum and things like that is something that is important. So looking at those updates, what has been updated? HVAC is another one. Having newer systems is a good thing. When we hit these winter months that are going to be coming up, you don't want to have your heat go out. Because when the heat goes out, frozen pipes. So looking at when those systems have been updated is another important factor. So those are a couple of the ones, and there's several others that you can evaluate. For agents in our area as well, as you get to more rural locations, some people love their space. You can get more land. You don't see your neighbors as frequently. But insurance companies also evaluate their rates and if they will cover you or not based on something called protection class. Protection class goes from protection class 1 all the way to protection class 10. 1, the fire station is your neighbor and you have a fire hydrant in your front yard. Protection class 10, you're more than 5 miles away from a fire station, and you're probably on well and septic at that point. It's just a higher risk for insurance companies at that point that if something happens as far as a fire, the response time for that.
Right.
And so some insurance companies, it's a hard no. We're not going to cover that. For others, they may have different requirements, and there's certainly an impact on the premium as a result of that.
Sure.
So those are all things that you're evaluating when you're looking at homes that you might not think about when you're looking at it. A lot of times we see pictures online of homes, and we're looking at, has the kitchen been updated? What type of new luxury vinyl plank floors are in the house? Things along those lines. From the seller's perspective, if I'm investing money that's going to make this a very marketable home, I don't know what the buyer wants as far as their countertops or their paint color or their flooring. But everyone would appreciate a new roof. If there's some different updates, like it needs a new HVAC, if I was going to put money into a home to give it more market value, those are the things, as an insurance agent, that I see as great selling points.
Right. That's very interesting. And I think one of the really interesting things is the difference between what might be acceptable to an insurance company and what a home inspector might give a positive report on. And where a home inspector might say, gee, these shingles are rated at 30 years, the house is 12 years old or 20 years old, some signs of normal wear, but no leaks. And the homeowner, prospective buyer would think, wow, that's great. The insurance company would think, not so much.
It's true. The home inspector, when they're evaluating the property, they want to look at, are you inheriting any issues? Is there anything that we see presently with you buying this home that should be of concern? The insurance company is evaluating it similarly and a little bit different, because they're not only looking at what is the condition of it right now, but what is our likelihood of something happening in the next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and then how is that going to impact us? Are we expecting to pay out $20,000 for a roof in the next 3 years? Home inspector can't really make those assumptions. That's not their job, and that's not what they're there for. They don't want to have a deal closed on something that could potentially happen. But an insurance company is based purely on the risk, and they're looking at actuarials and statistics, and they can say, based on this roof and this age, we have a 20% chance that it's going to have a roof claim in the next 3 years.
The data analytics are amazing to me, what insurance companies have access to. And so this doesn't only affect buyers and sellers, but current homeowners as well. We have an agent, we were talking about this in our office, and we have an agent that said, I got a letter out of the blue from my insurance company that said I needed a new roof and I needed to put a railing on my back deck because it was more than one step off the ground. And I called them and said, nobody's been to my house. How do you all know all this? And they said, we sent a drone by and took pictures.
Yes.
How prevalent is that in the industry? Is that something that most homeowners should just expect to happen every certain number of years?
It is becoming more and more common as technology continues to increase. Insurance companies, as well as everyone else out there, is learning and utilizing newer technologies. What's really interesting, and you may not know this, but if you go like on Google, and you do like a street view of a property, and it's going to show the most recent kind of view of that home. There's actually a little drop down that will actually let you look at the legacy photos that Google has taken of that street view. So you can go back and you can see. So insurance companies now are using it to say, okay, are there risks on our book that we might need to reevaluate, or give the opportunity to shore up some things that we see as a potential future issue, or do we need to move off some of those? The insurance companies are, everyone is a customer of them, but they also have to evaluate the quality of their book of business that they have to maintain their financial stability as a company. So they can look at that and say, yes, with this new technology that we have, we evaluated the home and we think it needs a new roof, or this is now something that is an underwriting standard for us and we need to get an updated rail on here because that's a liability issue of someone falling. And hopefully the technology is actually going to be used in a positive way.
Sure.
An example that I bumped into recently was an estate sale of a home, and the people had no idea when the roof was updated, but it looked in fairly good condition. And an insurance company can also look at those legacy photos and say, this is what the roof was in 2023, and this is what it looks like in 2025, and clearly it's been updated in the last 2 years. And so that can be helpful when you don't have that documentation, that you can use that in that direction as well, which is a good thing.
Yeah. Amazing, the data that's out there. Such good information. And I think a lot of this, most folks, most homeowners and buyers and sellers aren't aware. So I really appreciate you coming in today and sharing all of this with us. It's great information.
Thank you. Yeah.
And thank you all for joining us once again for the Kline May Podcast. Be sure to join us with our next episode. We'll have another great guest for you. Thanks. We'll see you next time.